Discover the incredible journey of mountain men, how they built life-changing cabins to survive. Jack stood at the edge of the forest, breath fogging in the crisp mountain air. The towering pines whispered secrets above him, shadows dancing like specters. Only now, those forest giants felt menacing instead of welcoming. It wasn't just the threat of winter that hung in his heart, but the chilling reality of raising his 2 children alone after losing his beloved wife, Emily. As he surveyed the patch of land that would soon be their new home, it felt like time had stopped, but the weight of responsibility pressed down harder than ever. Each day, Jack hustled through long shifts at the local diner, where the clatter of plates and the laughter of regulars often masked his own heartbreak. He worked to put food on the table, but the brooding financial strain lingered in the back of his mind. Every dollar earned a drop in the mountain of anxiety. The diner's warmth was a contrast to the cold he felt creeping into their lives, a chilling reminder that winter was racing closer. When he returned home, he swapped his apron for a tool belt, diving into his mission, building a cabin from scratch. It wasn't merely walls and a roof. It was a tribute to Emily, a sanctuary for their children, Charlie and Lily. Each swing of the hammer resonated with hope and love, but as he gathered timber, self-doubt clawed at him. The sound of the axe biting into wood was almost a mantra to muster his courage. Would he be enough? Why not try my way? Grumbled Tom, his neighbor's voice cutting through Jack's thoughts one evening. Tom, an older Vietnam veteran set in his ways, barely concealed his disdain for Jack's modern methods. Back in my day, we built from the ground up, he scoffed, looking at the stack of milled lumber Jack had chosen. Their debates turned more into disagreements, highlighting the divide between the old and the new, pride clashing louder than nails against wood. With each flake of snow that fell, the pressure mounted. Jack wrestled with isolation and the judgment of a community that whispered his failures. Yet, in those moments of hopelessness, unexpected support emerged. Neighbors showed up to lend a helping hand, inspired by his relentless spirit. They carried lumber and an unwavering resolve. It rekindled a flicker of hope in Jack's chest. Perhaps he wasn't as alone as he feared. But just as he found a rhythm, the storms rolled in, brutally cold and relentless. He fought against them, wrestling with the elements that seemed to mock his efforts. As the bitter winds howled outside, exhaustion became a constant companion. Yet each night, as the cabin's framework took shape, flashes of Emily danced in his memories, the warmth of her laughter, her gentle nudges of encouragement. Those moments propelled him forward even as he struggled to breathe beneath the weight of expectation. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. One evening, amid gathering storm clouds, Jack discovered a hidden compartment in the cabin's walls. Inside was a collection of keepsakes, trinkets from Emily's childhood, a box of her cherished letters. His heart raced, each piece pregnant with memories both beautiful and painful. There, nestled in the corner, was a letter addressed to him, one he had never seen before. Gripping that fragile paper, uncertainty washed over him. What secrets lay within? Would those words offer messages of hope or reminders of loss? As he stared at the curling edges of the letter, the question echoed in his mind, could this be the key to healing? For him and his children? In that moment, all the struggles, every nail hammered, every storm faced hung in the balance, filled with both dread and the possibility of redemption, leaving Jack suspended between the past and what might yet come. Jack's heart pounded as he unfolded the letter, each crease whispering Emily's name. The familiar scent of her lavender perfume lingered on the paper, pulling him back to sunlit days on their porch, sharing dreams and laughter. He took a deep breath, forcing back the tidal wave of emotions threatening to sweep him away. The words danced before his eyes, imperfect but full of her spirit. My dearest Jack, if you're reading this, it started. The corners of his mouth quirked up for a moment, but it quickly faded as he sunk deeper into the message. She spoke of hope, resilience, and the challenges they would face. Life is not always kind, but love endures, she wrote. Jack felt the warmth of those words envelop him like a hug from beyond, a comfort in the cold chaos of his current life. His eyes blurred with tears as he continued to read. Emily had poured her heart onto the page, reminding him of the dreams they shared for their family, and how she believed in their ability to overcome anything. "You are stronger than you know," she penned, and he could almost hear her voice in his mind, gentle yet resolute. Every line felt like her hand reaching across time, pulling him through the dark fog of loss. But as he neared the end, a tremor of guilt washed over him. He had promised to protect their children, to keep the love of their family alive. Had he faltered? Was he letting the shadows of grief smother the light of their home? Clutching the letter, Jack's resolve began to harden. If he was going to be enough for Charlie and Lily, he had to find a way to bridge his sorrow and their future. The next morning, he summoned his children to the cabin. Charlie's bright blue eyes sparkled with enthusiasm, while Lily fiddled with a loose thread on her sweater, glancing uncertainly around the still raw structure. But he saw it the same flicker of hope that had ignited in him when he first laid the foundation. "I have something to show you," he said, his voice steady as the walls around them. With the letter tucked safely in his pocket, he explained Emily's dreams for their family. They spoke of building not just a cabin, but a home filled with laughter and love, where memories could grow like the towering pines outside. He felt the warmth of their smiles, their trust in him beginning to weave a fragile tapestry of hope, even amidst the uncertainty. Days turned to weeks, and the cabin transformed with each nail Jack drove in. They painted the walls warm shades of soft cream, decorated with homemade drawings of mountains and sunsets, each stroke a testament to their journey forward. Laughter filled the air as they worked together, echoing Emily's spirit in every chuckle and cheerful shout. As the first snowdrifts began to blanket their new home, Jack felt a newfound sense of purpose settling around him like the fresh powder. But just when it seemed they were edging closer to peace, a sudden knock on the door shattered the moment. He opened it to find Tom standing there, a little less gruff than usual. "Mind if I lend a hand? I've got some ideas for the roof." Jack hesitated, the old tensions between them bubbling back to the surface. But then he remembered Emily's letter, her words echoing in his heart. He took a deep breath, contemplating the offer. Could accepting help from Tom be the way to unite the old and the new? "Sure, come on in," Jack replied, pushing past his doubts. As Tom stepped inside, he glanced around, taking in the lively decor, the laughter of the children, the sense of community that had begun to blossom. Maybe this new beginning wasn't just about Jack and his kids, it could involve everyone. In that moment, Jack realized that while the past was heavy, the future was filled with possibilities. He just needed to steer the ship and make sure they all weathered the storms together, hand in hand. But as the snow continued to fall around them, the shadows of uncertainty lingered. What would happen when winter truly set in? Could they hold on to this fragile hope when the storms raged once more, threatening to tear apart the very fabric of their new life? As Jack watched Tom step inside, he felt the air shift. The tension that had hung between them like a winter fog began to clear. With each laugh shared from Charlie and Lily, he sensed the walls he'd built around his heart slowly crumbling. Tom flashed a hesitant smile, the kind that said he wanted to connect but didn't quite know how. "Looks like you've got a great start," Tom said, admiring the web of colors and memories emerging from the empty cabin. Jack felt a flicker of gratitude. Here was someone who was trying to step forward, someone who might just help them build something even stronger together. "Yeah, we're really getting into it." Jack's voice trembled slightly as he gestured toward the children, busy scattering drawings and paper crafts across the table. They wanted their own touches everywhere. Tom chuckled, the sound felt genuine, breaking through the icy barriers they both had constructed over the years. "That's how you create a home. You let every little piece matter." Together, they sorted through the work left to be done. Jack observed as Tom grabbed a hammer and handed it to Charlie. "You know how to hold that, buddy?" he asked, kneeling to meet the boy's eyes at his level. Charlie nodded, his expressions a mix of pride and enthusiasm. Lily watched from behind, an apron tied around her small waist, carefully crafting a vision of her own. "I want our room to be this shade of purple, Dad," she said, her voice cutting through the clattering of tools. Jack's heart swelled. They were dreaming again, together, just as Emily had hoped. With each motion, they settled into a rhythm, laughter weaving itself through the sturdy walls. But the clouds looming outside were a reminder that peace may be fleeting. Was this the calm before the storm? As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow through the cabin, Jack felt the ache of his past settle back in. He glanced at Tom working beside him, the shadow of their old rivalry still etched in the lines of Tom's face. Would that shadow resurface as winter approached? "Hey, Jack," Tom said, looking up at him, "I know we haven't always seen eye to eye, but this place it feels different." His honesty hung in the air, the words coming more easily than Jack had anticipated. "Yeah, it needs to be," Jack replied, running his hand over the wooden beams. "This is about more than just the cabin. It's about embracing life and moving forward." Just then, a gust of wind rattled through the walls. Jack looked out, the clouds roiling ominously in the distance. The snow had begun falling heavier now, and the cabin felt smaller against the encroaching storm. "Do you have enough supplies?" Tom asked, worry lacing his tone. Jack thought for a moment, then nodded. "We stocked up last week, but I didn't think it would hit this fast." As night fell, so did the weight of what was to come. While their laughter warmed the inside of the cabin, the reality outside loomed large. Could they face the frigid challenges ahead, or would the past come rushing back, tearing at the seams they were stitching together? Tracing the edges of Emily's letter in his pocket, Jack felt a surge of determination. To honor her memory, he needed to embrace these moments, meld past and future, and guide his family through whatever challenges awaited. But as the wind howled and the lights flickered, a different sound pierced the darkness, a distant rumble echoing through the trees. Jack's heart raced. Was it just the storm, or was something else out there, threatening to disrupt their fragile peace? The uncertainty twisted inside him, pushing him to consider the hidden dangers of this winter. What lay beyond the comforting glow of their cabin? A breath caught in his throat as he turned to Tom, both men feeling the weight of the unknown pressing in around them. Would they stand strong together, or was the storm merely the first of many challenges they'd soon face? Tom stood close, their breaths mingling in the frigid air. Jack could see the unease flicker in his friend's eyes, mirroring his own fears about the unknown. It was a tension that felt palpable, a thread connecting them through the darkening storm outside. "Let us check the windows," Jack suggested, breaking the quiet. They moved towards the glass, peering out at the swirling snowflakes dancing in the wind. The world beyond the cabin became a blizzard of white, each gust howling like a wailing ghost. Tom shifted, pulling his coat tighter around himself. "You know, it's just like our childhoods," he said thoughtfully. "Always playing in the snow, feeling invincible." Jack let out a soft laugh, memories floating back like snowflakes. "Yeah, until we got frostbite." Their shared chuckle felt good, a breath of warmth in the chill. But Jack's thoughts soon turned serious again. I don't want to lose that feeling again. We need to protect what we have now, even if it seems small." Tom placed a hand on Jack's shoulder, a gesture that felt reassuring. "We'll figure it out together. Whatever happens, I'm here," he promised, and for the first time, Jack felt a genuine bond forming, one forged by years of strife but now tempered with mutual understanding. Suddenly, a loud crack echoed outside, startling the kids to silence. The wind howled louder, battering the cabin as if seeking to break through the walls they had just begun to build up emotionally. Jack's heart pounded. "Stay close," he called out, turning back to the children, who had instinctively huddled together. Charlie and Lily nodded, eyes wide with uncertainty, the remnants of their innocence stark against the turbulent night. "Can we play a game?" Charlie asked, his voice barely audible over the storm's encroachment. It was a play for normalcy, something to distract them from the danger. "Good idea," Jack replied, forcing a smile. "Let us play a storytelling game. I'll start." He took a deep breath, feeling the warmth of the fire flickering in the corner. Once upon a time, in a cabin as cozy as this one, a brave family faced a fierce snowstorm. They came together, using their imagination to fight off the cold. As he spoke, Tom continued to glance outside, his unease growing. "What's out there, Jack?" he murmured when he thought the children couldn't hear. Jack's mind raced. "I'm not sure, but we'll stay vigilant. Whatever happens, we have each other." He turned back to the children, watching their eyes light up as the story unfolded. The way the battles fought in the warmth of their minds held a different kind of magic. They were finding comfort in the face of the storm. He needed that too. The night wore on, but the pressure outside felt heavier. With each gust, it was as if nature was warning them about what lay ahead. Jack glanced at Tom, who seemed to sense it too. "Did you feel that?" Tom asked, his expression serious. Yet Jack swallowed hard. "There's something about this storm that feels different." As the story ended, the children clapped, their laughter briefly filling the air. But just as quickly it faded, swallowed by the howling wind. A shudder ran through the cabin, causing Jack to glance at the door. Definitely not a good sign. Perhaps it was the storm playing tricks on them, or perhaps it was something more ominous. "Maybe we should check the provisions again," Tom suggested, his voice laced with concern. Jack nodded, his stomach tight. Every sound seemed amplified, echoing uncertainty around them. "Let us do it." They made their way to the pantry, the flickering lights casting shadows that danced on the walls. Jack's mind was racing, considering all that could go wrong. The storm was one thing, but would old wounds resurface when faced with real challenges? Tom's voice pulled him from his thoughts. "Do you think we can really do this? All of this?" With fear clawing at his insides, Jack turned to face Tom, searching for the belief that was swiftly slipping away. They needed to be strong for the kids, for their future, even if the darkness seemed all-consuming. "We have to try, Jack," finally said, his voice steadier than he felt. "For Emily. For all of us." A newfound determination surged between them. In that moment, they stood on the brink of commitment, ready to embrace the daunting journey ahead together. But as they moved to the pantry, a thunderous crash echoed outside, shaking the cabin to its core. Jack's heart skipped a beat. What had just happened? "Let us go!" he shouted, muscles tensed as the reality of their night settled in. What awaited them outside was anyone's guess, but as they walked toward the door, dread and anticipation twisted within him. Just what had they unleashed in this winter's fury? Jack gripped the door handle, his heart thumping louder than the wind battering against the walls. With one swift motion, he flung open the door. A blast of icy air rushed in, sharp and biting. Snow swirled around them in chaotic patterns, the world beyond reduced to a whiteout. The silhouette of the trees danced erratically, threatening to collapse under the weight of the storm. "Jack! Wait!" Tom shouted, trying to pull him back, but the noise swallowed his voice. Jack squinted into the ferocity of the snow, searching for anything that could explain the crash. A fallen branch, maybe, or worse, something more sinister. "Stay close!" Jack yelled back, stepping out but keeping the threshold as his anchor, the cabin's warm glow beckoning him back. Tom followed, a cautious step behind as they pushed into the frigid chaos, the kids peering fearfully from the cabin, their eyes wide with worry. "What did you hear?" Tom asked, his breath turning into clouds in the air. "Something heavy," Jack said, teeth chattering. "I just felt it. It's got to be out here." The harsh wind howled around them, drowning out all other sound. Jack felt small and helpless, surrounded by swirling snow that was both beautiful and terrifying. A part of him wanted to retreat, to shield the kids from the uncertainty. But the other part craved answers. Then, without warning, another loud crack echoed, but this time it was different. More sustained, almost like a groan. "Did you hear that?" Jack gasped, turning to see Tom's face pale in the dim light. "Yeah, but where is it coming from?" Tom replied, his voice raw. Jack turned his gaze back towards the woods. He could see shadows shifting, low to the ground. Something was moving out there, lost in the storm, drawn to their cabin like a moth to a flame. Jack felt an unusual mixture of dread and a peculiar sense of curiosity. "Let us check it out," Jack urged, taking a step forward. Are you crazy? Tom shot back, grabbing Jack's arm. We can't just wander into the woods. It's not safe. I can't ignore it, Jack insisted, shaking off Tom's grip. We have to know. He moved further away from the cabin, the snow crunching underfoot, the cold seeping through his clothes. Tom hesitated, his instincts warring with Jack's resolve. Wait up, Tom finally muttered, reluctantly joining Jack. But we should be quick. Charlie and Lily remained near the door, clutching each other, their eyes wide with fear. Jack could feel the weight of their worried gazes on him. He knew that whatever happened next wasn't just about him and Tom, it was about ensuring the kids felt safe. As they plunged deeper into the swirling white, a shape began to emerge from the shadows, a dark figure against the blinding snow. Jack's heart raced. Is that? Tom breathed, squinting ahead. Jack could hardly believe his eyes. It was thick and broad, hunched low but moving slowly, dragging something behind it. What on earth? Jack gasped, taking another step closer. Jack! Get back! Tom shouted, panic creeping into his voice and breaking Jack's focus. Before Jack could react, the figure turned toward them, eyes or what looked like eyes glinting dangerously in the storm. It was the kind of creature that nightmares were made of. Run! Tom grabbed Jack's arm again, urgency propelling them back toward the cabin. But Jack was frozen, staring at the entity that had emerged from the storm. The fear melted away as curiosity tugged at him, leaving him standing in the snow, breathless and still. In that moment, he understood the storm had unleashed more than just wind and snow. A secret lay waiting to be discovered. Jack! Tom's voice shook him from his thoughts. We have to go. Now! Jack hesitated just a moment longer, eyes locked on the creature. Would he be able to understand what it wanted? Or would that curiosity lead them all into danger? What did it mean to unlock the unknown? With one last look, Jack nodded reluctantly and together, they sprinted back toward the cabin, hearts pounding, knowing they had brushed against something extraordinary. As the door slammed shut behind them, sealing the menacing storm away, they were shaken, but Jack couldn't help but wonder if the real adventure was just beginning. What had they awakened in the heart of the storm? The cabin settled back into a silence that felt oddly comforting, but Jack could still feel the faint tremors of fear pulsing through him. The storm raged on outside, but within this wooden shelter, he was confronted by an inexplicable urge to delve deeper into the mystery that had just brushed past him. Tom rushed to secure the door, glancing back to ensure the kids were still close. Charlie and Lily stood huddled together, their tiny faces cast pale in the dim light. Their eyes flickered between Jack and Tom, searching for reassurance. Jack could see the questions forming in their innocent minds. Were they safe? What was out there? Did it mean them harm? You guys okay? Jack asked, kneeling down to their level. He forced a smile, but it felt strained against the weight of recent events. Lily nodded, though her brow furrowed in worry. What was that, Jack? It looked scary. Tom stepped in, brushing his fingers over Lily's hair. It was probably just a big animal, nothing to worry about. We're safe in here, he assured them, though his tone carried an edge of uncertainty. Jack could sense Tom's unease, too, but he felt a pull toward the secret waiting outside. Maybe we should see if it needs help, Jack suggested, his heart racing. It was reckless, stupid even, but the idea formed a tight knot in his chest, urging him on. Are you serious? Tom's voice was incredulous. After what we just saw, there's no way I'm going out there again. I know, but what if it isn't what we think? What if it's just lost? Jack replied, desperation creeping into his voice. The thought of abandoning a creature, the only one who had dared to brave the storm, didn't sit right. Jack, listen, Tom leaned in, lowering his voice as if the walls had ears. We can't leave the kids alone. If you go, I'm going with you. No way I'm letting you face that thing alone. Jack nodded, a mix of relief and fear flooding him. He wanted answers, but the decision was weighing heavily on both of them. They had children to protect, lives to safeguard. Yet something inside him said this was important. Fine. We'll figure out something, Tom agreed reluctantly, as Jack felt the tiniest stirring of excitement. This was that they were on the verge of uncovering something monumental. Jack turned to Charlie and Lily. "You two stay here, right?" he instructed gently, trying to mask his trepidation behind a confident facade. "Promise me you won't open the door for anything until we're back?" Charlie nodded, clutching Lily's hand tighter. "Promise!" They echoed together, their little voices resolute. The urgency thrummed in Jack's veins as he and Tom stepped back outside into the frigid embrace of the storm. The air was even colder than before, as if the world was holding its breath, waiting for their next move. The line between bravery and foolishness blurred with each crunch of snow beneath their feet. Shadows danced, and the wind whispered, sounding almost like voices leading them deeper into the woods. Jack's heart hammered with every step, and with it came a sense of determination. They could face whatever they found together. As they ventured farther into the swirling white, they spotted the dark figure again, lingering just ahead. Jack could see it more clearly now, its frame more solid, more defined. It was not just a beast of the storm, but something far more enigmatic. "Are you ready?" Tom's words trembled, both from the cold and fear, yet they fueled Jack's resolve. "Let us do this," Jack breathed out, stepping into the unknown with Tom beside him. But they had only taken a few more steps when a piercing wail resonated through the air, a cry that sent chills down their spines and reverberated through the very core of their beings. "What was that?" Tom whispered, close to panic. Jack swallowed hard. The truth was about to unravel, or perhaps they would uncover a darkness they couldn't escape. "Let us find out," he said, heart racing, setting off toward the source of the sound, with Tom reluctantly in tow. In that moment, both men realized the storm was more than just weather, it was a harbinger of change, and answers lay just ahead. As they drew closer, the shapes in the snow began to stir, and Jack's thoughts raced. What if the truth was something they weren't prepared to handle? Could they truly confront what lay ahead? Would they emerge unscathed, or was this journey going to change everything? The wail echoed again, slicing through the wind like a knife, high and haunting. It twisted Jack's insides with a mixture of fear and curiosity. What could make such a sound? Every instinct screamed at him to turn back, but the pull was stronger than the need for safety. He took a deep breath, his exhale mingling with the icy air. Tom moved closer, his body tight with apprehension. Maybe we should rethink this," he said, casting a wary glance over his shoulder. "No," Jack replied firmly, feeling the weight of the moment. "We can't just leave it out here. We owe it that much." Yet with each step, uncertainty knotted in his gut. Each footfall crunched against the snow, the sound swallowed up by the bluster of the storm. They trudged deeper, their surroundings growing darker, the trees looming like sentinels guarding whatever lay ahead. Then, just as they rounded a cluster of tall pines, they spotted a figure slumped against a fallen tree, shivering, mist rising from its body. Jack's heart raced. Was it hurt? Lost? "It's just an animal," Tom whispered, his voice barely rising above the wind. But as they drew near, Jack could see it wasn't just any animal. It was a large wolf, its fur matted and sharp, eyes glinting with both pain and fear. The creature let out another wail, and Jack's heart broke at the sound. "We can't leave it like this," he said, stepping forward. "Jack, wait!" Tom grabbed his arm. "It could be dangerous." Jack pulled free. "I have to help it. It's suffering." With slow, deliberate movements, Jack approached the wolf, kneeling in the snow, his breath visible in the cold air. "Easy there, buddy," he said softly, sensing the tension coiling within the animal. "I'm not here to hurt you." The wolf flinched, but didn't retreat. Its breathing was shallow, and Jack could see the sharp outline of ribs beneath its fur. Tom hovered at a distance, unease plastered across his face. "You're insane, Jack," he said softly, panic tugging at his words. "We should go back." But Jack couldn't turn away. He reached into his pocket, feeling the energy of the storm wrap around him even tighter. He pulled out a candy bar, the only food he had. "Here," he murmured, tossing it gently near the wolf. "It's okay." The animal's gaze flicked to the offering, then back to Jack. Something about its eyes hinted at understanding. Just then, the wind howled with fury, and the wolf's ears pricked up. It darted its gaze beyond Jack, fear disrupting the brief moment of connection. "What is it?" Jack asked, suddenly alert. A shadow flitted between the trees, and his heart leaped into his throat. Was it more danger lurking, or something else entirely? "We have to go," Tom insisted, pulling at Jack's sleeve. "Something's not right." But the wolf seemed to sense this fear too, and it shifted, eyes narrowing as if anticipating a threat. Jack felt torn between the instinct to protect this creature and the instinct to flee. Then, the figure emerged from the trees, revealing itself to be a taller, darker shape, moving with an eerie grace, its own instincts sharp and ready. Jack's heart slammed against his chest, and he instinctively stepped closer to the wolf, the stark reality sinking in. "Stay back!" Jack yelled. But he wasn't sure whether the command was directed at Tom, the wolf, or the encroaching shadow. His mind raced. Was the storm leading them into a trap? What had they truly awakened in this fierce wilderness? As they stood there, the snow swirling and the darkness closing in, Jack felt the weight of his decision crashing down. Would he choose to protect the wolf, or would they both need to run? The moment hung steeply in the air, a fragile balance teetering on the edge of fear and resolve. Just like that, the truth was beginning to emerge, and it became clear that the night was not finished with them yet. The figure stepped into the clearing, and Jack's breath caught. It was a tall man, wild-haired and rugged, with a thick coat that seemed to swallow him whole. His skin was pale against the dark backdrop of the trees, and his eyes shone with an otherworldly intensity. Jack's instinct screamed that this man didn't belong to the human world, but rather to the wilderness itself, a spirit intertwined with the land. "Step away from the wolf," the man commanded, his voice a low growl that bore the weight of the forest. Jack felt his pulse quicken, and fear gripped him like icy hands, but his gaze stayed locked on the wolf. "No!" Jack shouted back, lifting his chin defiantly. "It's hurt. I'm trying to help." The wild man moved closer, unflinching, each step measured as if he were stalking prey. "You know not what you invite. That animal is cursed, just as I am." Behind Jack, Tom's anxiety swelled. "Jack, let it go! We don't know who this guy is." Jack couldn't budge, though. The wolf's gaze shifted between the man and Jack, a mixture of confusion and alertness in its eyes. Jack could feel a bond already forming, a shared understanding of vulnerability. "I can help it," Jack said again, putting all he had into that statement. "You too, if you let us." The man stopped in his tracks, his expression softening for the briefest moment. It was as if Jack had perceived a flicker of humanity beneath the wildness. The wolf looked at Jack, and then slowly, it laid its head down, letting out a low whine. Was it trusting him? "What do you know of curses?" the man asked, his voice now laced with an odd vulnerability. "I don't know," Jack admitted, his resolve wavering in the face of the unknown. "But I know it doesn't deserve to suffer alone." Tom's hands were shaking. "Jack, come on! We need to go!" But Jack took a step closer to the wolf, ignoring Tom's panic. "I won't leave it!" he shouted back, determination flaming in his chest. He could sense the rift between fear and compassion growing wider with every word, almost palpable. The man studied Jack's face thoughtfully, squatting down to be eye level with the wolf. There was an inexplicable connection forming, one that made Jack feel oddly hopeful. "Perhaps you're more like me than I thought," the wild man said finally, his voice barely above a whisper. "But the consequences of tampering with the spirits are dire." "Spirits?" Jack repeated, curiosity sparking through the fear. "What do you mean?" "Everything in this life is tied to the unseen," the wild man replied, glancing back toward the trees. "Hurt them, and they will hurt you in return. But if they see you caring, they may guide you instead." The wind howled angrily as if the forest were warning Jack not to test its patience. He could feel Tom's nervous energy behind him, but everything in Jack urged him to connect, to understand. "What happened to the wolf?" Jack pressed, stepping closer to the man, words tumbling from his lips. "What curse?" Before the man could respond, the wolf suddenly raised its head. Its body stiffened, and Jack followed its gaze across the clearing. A low growl rumbled through the animal's throat, a warning. Jack's heart sank as he realized what was coming. The shadows in the trees grew darker, shapes emerging that were unmistakably not human. Wild eyes watched them from the depths, and Jack felt a chill that ran deeper than just cold. "Get ready!" the wild man shouted, springing to his feet. "We need to protect the wolf." "How?" Jack cried, hopelessness mingling with adrenaline as he scanned the darkening woods. With a sudden jolt, Jack understood. The wolf needed them, just as they needed it. They were bound together now in this perilous moment, a fragile alliance formed in desperation. "Stay close!" Jack shouted to Tom as they shifted to form a barrier around the wolf. As the silhouettes crept closer, adrenaline surged through him. And then, just as the first shadow lunged from the trees, Jack realized that this was more than just a fight for survival. It was a test of their very souls, a moment destined to change everything. What price would they pay for their choices in the wilderness tonight? Jack barely had time to register the shadow lunging toward them before chaos erupted. It was a creature, wild and twisted, a dark mass gliding like smoke through the underbrush. Instinct kicked in. He thrust himself forward, arms outstretched, determination coursing through his veins like fire. "Tom, behind me!" he shouted, confidence in his voice. But he could sense the tremors of doubt in Tom just a few steps back, the boy's eyes wide with fear. The wild man, perhaps sensing their resolve, joined them with a fierce growl of his own. "Stand firm. Protect the wolf." He brandished something from his coat, a large, gnarled branch. It was a weapon forged from the forest, strong and wild, much like the man himself. As the first creature lunged again, Jack's heart thudded in his chest. He stepped to the right, swinging his arm to intercept. The creature's matted fur met the branch with a loud crack as the wild man struck true. Jack felt a rush of adrenaline, realizing they were not alone in this fight. "Together!" the wild man shouted, and for a fleeting moment, Jack saw not just a man, but a guardian of the wilderness fighting for more than survival. That fierce look in his eyes reminded Jack of the determination he felt growing inside. The wolf remained low to the ground, its ears pinned back as it watched the fray. Jack felt a protective instinct toward it swell within him, a bond forged through shared peril. If they were going to make it out alive, they needed each other. From the darkness, more figures emerged, wild and frantic. Jack's focus narrowed. He saw one bearing down on Tom. Time stretched, every second filled with panic. "Tom!" he screamed, his voice filling the night air. Without thinking, he dove towards his friend, feeling the ground rush beneath him as he tumbled in front of Tom. The blow connected hard, but Jack clenched his jaw and pushed himself up. A raw urgency surged within him. Was he going to let the darkness swallow them whole? "Get the wolf!" Jack yelled, desperation fueling every syllable. "We need to save it!" Tom nodded, though fear still swirled in his chest. Together, they moved as one unit, eyes fixed on the creature scrambling backward in surprise. The night had taken on a life of its own, the howls of wolves mingling with their own desperate breaths. Jack could hear the rustling of leaves around them, nature itself seeming to react to their fight. The wild man fought like a force of nature, wielding the branch with precision and power. Jack remembered the man's words, about being one with the spirits of the land. He felt the wildness, too, awakening something fierce inside him. With every strike, Jack could hear the whispers of encouragement from the trees, a reminder that they were not simply fighting for survival, but for connection. They were becoming part of something bigger, intertwining their hearts with the pulse of the forest, and the wolf's trust seemed to resonate between them. Then the shadows paused. The creatures hesitated, sensing the flame that had ignited in the clearing. The wild man stopped mid-swing, standing tall. "Let them know who protects the innocent." With a roar, he raised the branch high, and for a moment, silence draped over them like a blanket. Jack felt breathless at the sight of it, the unity, the raw power resonating in their small, fragile circle. But before they could take a collective breath, a low rumble filled the air. It was no longer just shadows, a deeper threat loomed from the darkness. The trees themselves seemed to shudder, as though sensing an impending storm. Fear gnawed at Jack's insides, something far worse than what they had already confronted slithering at the edges of his mind. "What is that?" The wild man glanced at him, a flicker of foreboding passing through his eyes. The heart of the curse. Their sanctuary was in jeopardy, and Jack felt a pull toward what was to come. What was this force threatening to strip away their bond? What lay ahead in the depths of the wild? "Stay on guard," he shouted to Tom, feeling the weight of destiny closing in around them. The howls grew louder, harmonizing with the pulse of their hearts. They stood at the brink of a wild awakening, ready to embrace whatever awaited them in the darkened woods. What had they truly awakened? The storm raged on, flinging snow like wild confetti, as Jack, Tom, and the wolf braced themselves against the encroaching shadows. They held their ground, hearts pounding like war drums. The wild man's words echoed in Jack's mind. The heart of the curse. They were facing more than physical danger. They were at the crossroads of old wounds and new beginnings. Then it came, an enormous figure, half glimpsed in the darkness, slinking toward them. Its presence was suffocating, a heavy blanket of fear that made Jack's breath freeze in his lungs. The wolf growled low, bristling with instinct, a fierce spirit standing alongside them. "We need to stay united," Jack urged, trying to sound confident. He could see Tom's eyes flickering with doubt, but felt a spark of resolve gathering between them. "Remember Emily's words. We are stronger together." The wild man, a primal force in his own right, gripped his branch tighter, his eyes capturing the glow of impending chaos. "Show it we won't back down," he roared, embodying everything primal and fierce about nature. Jack felt it in his bones. This was not just a battle for survival, but a call to fight for their shared humanity and connection to nature. It was about giving voice to the voiceless between the wolf, the wilderness, and their own deep-seated fears. Another dark shape surged forward. This time, it leaped into the clearing. But rather than retreat, Jack held fast, feeling a flicker of courage ignite within him. "For Emily!" he shouted, letting her memory fuel him. "For our future!" With a shared glance, Tom and Jack surged forward together, a duo threaded by fear and determination. They pushed against the darkness, a flicker of light upon the wide expanse of snow. They knew losing ground was not an option. The wolf, sensing allies new and old forming a protective barrier, howled an encouraging note, urging them forward. The wild man swung with precision, driving back dark shadows that threatened to engulf them. Each strike felt like a mantra, echoing strength and unity. Jack thought of his children, the laughter they shared just a few evenings ago, and the dreams they were building. He thought of Emily's spirit surrounding them, her love wrapping tight like warmth against the bitter chill. Then something changed. The shadows faltered, as if questioning. Jack saw the glint of understanding in the wild man's eyes, and he knew they were approaching a pivotal moment. "What is it afraid of?" he wondered aloud, moving closer, feeling the warmth of the wolf pressed against him. "It fears the bond you create," the wild man yelled, his voice a war cry against the gathering storm. Jack understood that their strength lay not just in their bravado but in their shared mission. This was about welcome, vulnerability, and hope. Pushing together, hand in hand with Tom, and heart to heart with the wolf, Jack took a step toward the darkness. "Leave it alone," he declared, his voice echoing through the fury of the night. The shadow wavered, hesitating, and with that, Jack seized the moment. "You don't belong here," he shouted, arms spread wide, forming a shield. "We stand united, and we will protect those who can't protect themselves." With a shock of energy, the dark form recoiled, and the air crackled with an unearthly tension. The wolf growled, a deep, proud sound, defiance in its essence. "Together," Tom echoed beside Jack, forcing the words with all his will. Then, as if the universe responded, a gust of wind swept through, clearing away the snow and dark around them, exposing the light within. In that moment, a realization dawned on Jack. The curse wasn't just a curse. It was a call for connection. Together, they were not just fighting a shadow, they were igniting a spark in each other, the spark of family, trust, love, and the belief that they could create good amidst the wildness of life. The shadows began to fade, and there was silence, a quiet stillness that hung like breathless air suspended in time. Then, with an abrupt flicker, the dark shapes dissolved into light, retreating as if drawn back by their bravery and the bond they had forged. As the last trace of darkness slipped away, Jack felt a rush of relief that flowed through him like warmth. The wolf, once cowering, stood tall, as if new life surged through its veins. The wild man relaxed too, a relieved smile breaking across his rugged face. "You have shown strength greater than the curse," he said, voice calming against the wind. "You have stood for one another, and that is the essence of true freedom." Breathless, Jack turned to Tom, their gazes locking. They had navigated this treacherous storm together, and their bond had only deepened. Jack felt the spirit of Emily surrounding him, holding him close. "We did it," Tom nodded, tears glimmering in his eyes. "We did." As the first rays of dawn broke across the horizon, Jack looked at the snow-covered landscape, beautiful and new. The weight of loss still lingered, but now, it was infused with hope. "Let us go home," Jack said, holding out his hand. Together, the three of them, Jack, Tom, and the wolf, returned to the cabin, where Charlie and Lily waited, innocence mingling with wonder. This was just the beginning. They would create a life of laughter, strength, and togetherness. A new tale that embraced every shadow while relishing the light. And as they crossed the threshold into the cabin, Jack smiled through tears. The storms may come, but they would face them as a family. Now, this is your moment, don't wait a second longer. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm because your support makes a difference. Comment your reactions and feelings about this inspiring ending, your voices matter. And share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformative journey. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting our channel. Let's build together.